Hey guys, what's going on? This is Marshall Dice, known as Adam Campbell.
General Dice, Todd Evangelista.
Super Dice, Dave Radzik.
And this is Dice Squad. We're live here at AnCon 2015 with the guest of honor himself,
Alex Yeager from Mayfair Games.
What's up, Alex? How's it going?
Not much. It's been a fun weekend. We've been, for the most part, playing games with folks and hanging out. There hasn't been, it's been a little, I understand it's been a smaller group than what it has been in the past, but the people that are here have been excited, have been enjoying themselves here, and I've been enjoying myself right alongside them.
Well, how does it feel being the guest of honor at 2015 for AnCon?
Well, I guess the first question that always comes to mind is, what was third Ewok from the left doing this weekend? Because, I figure, we could have Dave Arneson maybe show up. He's dead, right? Well, but still,
Unfortunately, we underutilize any of our guests, so usually we invite people we know. It's not like we're going to pay a bunch of money and then have... So usually Larry's come in the past. Mayfair's been fantastic in supporting us. So Alex and his wife Julie came this year. Alex does... game procurement?
I really have two different hats I wear with the company. Well, it's a small company, and small companies, everyone does everything, jack of all trades kind of thing. But the two business cards I have are Minister of Product Acquisition, which means my job is to act as gatekeeper for people that want to submit designs to the company, and then also Director of Special Media. So I'm in charge of our podcasting activities, so our Bob and Angus show, the White Glove demos, and some of other online stuff.
Gotcha. And I also heard you are a voice of a certain glove.
The glove doesn't have a voice. The glove is just kind of this this hand that runs around. Right. When we do the show, when people come up to me occasionally in a show and they'll say, "I know you from somewhere. Where do I know?" And I'll go, "Glover," and they go, "Oh yeah, you're the White Glove guy." It's just it's a very it's kind of that voice. But Mayfair, as part of they have a YouTube channel, Mayfair Games Movies, and on there we have about 80 of our White Glove movies, which are 80 demos for games that we've got in our line.
Yeah, they're very effective.
And we have we just wrapped, I think, season 12 of the Bob and Angus show. So that's been a weekly show for 2.5 years that we've run, and every week we have two sheep puppets that go on the air and talk about games, and usually devolves into something else. But it's a lot of fun.
And I thought 25 episodes was a long time for us, but 12 seasons?
Well, a season is 13 weeks, followed by a 4-week or 5-week kind of hiatus show, which basically means we're on vacation, but we're not, because we're actually doing a show every week anyway. So,
are you getting this down?
As a puppeteer, I could totally steal that idea.
So we have a couple of sheep. Actually, we have more than 2 sheep, but the 2 hosts are Bob McWhirtle and Angus McPeters, and they talk about games and other stuff. So.
All right. Well, I also hear you also have a game that you'd like to show our viewers here.
Sure. Well, obviously, right now, a couple of years ago, we were fortunate enough to acquire Lookout Games. So they're a separate company, but they're under our Mayfair banner now, and we're obviously delighted. Caverna, which is kind of in our foreground, probably out of the shot right now, but that's obviously one of the big hits that we had right out of the fence with the Lookout
why don't you
under
grab
our banner.
That, Marshall, and we'll show them.
Yeah, be careful. You may strain something.
This is a Uwe Rosenberg
Whoa,
game.
this is a heavy game.
Yes. So, there you go. So Caverna, which is sort
a lot
of the spiritual
cardboard goodness in there.
A lot of wood goodness in there too. It's kind of the spiritual successor to Agricola, but we've done really well with that. Obviously, it's a game that has been well received.
You could work out with this game.
It is, a little hand, a little arm pump there, certainly. But one of our recent successes from the Lookout stable is a game called Patchwork. It's a 2-player game where you're effectively making a quilt, but a little economic engine underneath it to keep the gamers happy. This is one of the games that we were showing off here at this show for the very first time was Trombon, which is the next 2-player game in that run.
Really?
So, it's a pretty simple game. You have a deck of cards, and the cards consist of effectively 4 colors, 4 suits, numbered 2 through 10, 3 of each, and a couple of jokers in there as well, which are just gray, non-colored. Each turn, you are trying to score points based on basically delivering passengers to the stations of the appropriate colors. So we have our 4 color. I have one of the, there's my other card there. So each turn, I have my hand of cards. I'm going to have to play at least one of them up here as a passenger, and 4 passengers up here will trigger scoring in that color.
All right.
Otherwise, I'm building runs of stations. So, for example, I could start a station run with this 3. So I'm going to start a blue run here. I can't go below this number ever, but I can continue to play above that number. So my next card would have to be at least a blue 4 or higher. I could put a blue 5 on it if I wanted, and so on. Jokers help to extend just the number of cards in my station run, because if I get to 8, I get to score it as an individual private scoring for myself. But effectively, what will happen is I'm going to build up this run, and at some point, should we get our four passengers over here, so someone plays a 4th card, we all score, in this case, we'd score blue station runs. So I'd look down the run, I score 1, 2, 3, 4 points, but every station run has to have an engine attached to it.
Well, of course, for a train to run,
You kind of need an engine. So in this case, my score would be the 4 points from my cards, my station cards, times 3 for the engine I have attached. So I'd score 12 points, and everyone that has blue cards would additionally score score their individual station runs. If I had more than one blue, I'd score those.
Do you have to play the train before you play the first station, or no?
I have to play the train on the same turn that I play that station with it. Should I ever have stations without an engine, they'll just discard. The stations cost a certain amount of money. Basically, the 2 X's cost 5, 3 X's cost 10, and 4 X's cost 15. How do I get money? At any point during my turn, I can either spend cards out of my hand or cards that I have stockpiled through the game in a pile next to me as money. So right now I'd have 4 in my stockpile. That's 4,000. I need 10,000 to buy that engine. So before the end of my turn, after I play my passengers, I play my station cards. I can ditch any number of cards from my hand into my money pile, and I draw back up to 6 cards.
I see.
And that's it. The game ends when someone has scored, when we've had 10 scorings triggered. So when 10 of these have been triggered. So not all of these are going to score in equal numbers based on what cards people are putting out for passengers. And you also have the opportunity for private scorings if any of your station runs get to 8 or large. So if I ever have 8 or more in a run, I immediately can score that privately once it doesn't count against the 10 limit for the game. So it's kind of a take on some other games that probably people are familiar with, that where you're building rows of colors of sequential
Lost
cards,
Cities,
of course, but a little more steroids going on in the fact that cards are not only passengers to trigger scoring, but cards that you use to score, but also the currency you need to pay for all of that.
Right. And we want to mention a couple of things. This is a prototype, so this is not final art. Well, it's going to look a lot different when it comes into production.
Yes.
Secondly, we
otherwise,
want to say
I'm going to have to sit there with a pair of scissors and sleeve all of these things for everyone. It's going to be like a run of 35 games, so don't get your hopes up.
And we should say who designed it, too.
This one is a helmet only. I'm going to get his name wrong. It's the gentleman that his most recent hit game was Russian Railroads.
Oh, okay, sure, for Z-Man.
Only, I believe, yeah. So this is his. So it's a design for him, from Lookout. So this is a game that will be out in the next couple of weeks. We're really excited to get out the door, and hopefully for folks that are going to be at Origins, they'll get a chance to try it and certainly buy it by Gen Con.
Also, if you do buy it, you will get a box.
Yeah, and we probably will give you a rule set too. We're sort of on the fence on that, It's a couple
rules are available online.
Actually, you have to call Mayfair, call the customer service. Lauren Rosnai will teach you the game. Just call up; she'll explain the game. Whatever, it'll be fine. So,
it may even be.
I just had my salary cut by half.
But where can people find products like this? What websites can they find this stuff on?
Certainly, you can go out to the MayfairGames.com site. We have our own site out there. But ultimately, at the end of the day, we actually prefer you to support our retailers, our wonderful team of folks that do that. So if you go out to the Mayfair site, we have a retailer locator, so you can find the store nearest you by your zip code. You can also certainly find us on a variety of online large sellers. Most notably, of course, probably Amazon. But again, we really feel that there is a value to having sort of that brick and mortar, or at least that strong player network that a lot of good game companies that provide, as far as both a place for people to come in and learn a game or to play a game. Sure.
Your local store is your community. Okay. This is like an annual gathering for your community, but you're weekly, some people daily. At least monthly if you can. You go to your store and you play some games. You see what's new. You meet some people, meet some old friends, make some new ones. It's all about community, and that's especially with games. It's better than just sitting in the dark watching a movie, because at least you get to see each other face to face. You get to do something that's fun and challenging, and unless you're playing really, really, like cutthroat poker games, you'll all walk away with a good time, and something to talk about.
And also on that note, we have had here at the AnCon a lot of people making their own games and displaying them and having people play them. Now, I didn't get a chance to play any of the games. I saw them. One is pretty much ready for production, that Grand Central.
Yep.
I didn't. You did play it?
They're actually selling. They actually have it for sale on their website, which I think is what Basement Games, I believe.
Yeah.
I apologize if that's not the case, but I'm pretty sure that's what it is. But
now, did you see any of the games here? Were you impressed by them, or?
It's interesting because part of my job, and I've been doing this informally for a few years before I officially got this title of a few years. So I've been in this role for probably 3 or 4 years. As my official thing. There was probably a time 10 years ago where a designer could show us something, and there was maybe a 50-50 shot that I could say, well, that was a very interesting experience. I thank you very much. There is a trash can right there by that door that you can deposit your thing, because you really shouldn't waste another minute on this thing. This is horrible. I'm sorry that which of course there's always that concern, because people are effectively showing you their grandkid and asking you to play. You're going to swipe left or right on their grandkid. Great. Like, the hair's a little fuzzy. I don't know what's going on with those eyebrows. You'd have both feet go in the same direction would be great.
That's a nose? What?
So, all of this is not really, something you want to tell a designer. But in the last 5 years in particular, and certainly the trend has started probably within the last decade, there are so many more tools and things available for game designers. There are things like Unpub or Protospiel that we attend regularly. Yeah. You've got forums that are discussing this on Facebook or Yahoo groups or whatever. You've got all these opportunities at conventions, where spaces kind of carved out for people to be able to
print on demand for rule books and pieces even sometimes.
There are so many ways for designers to really improve their design before they show it to us, that for the most part the expectation now is when I sit down to play a game, it's going to be at least good and probably marginally publishable without me having touched the game, which means of course that the standards have changed for why you're going to take a game and potentially look at it for publication. It means, number one, now I'm going to focus a lot more on the actual marketing. Who is this audience? Who is the audience for this game? How much money does it cost? I'm not going to do a $70 kids game, because that audience doesn't support $70 games for the most part. So I'm looking at components, I'm looking at the marketing, I'm looking at the audience, I'm looking at how much development work still is maybe required to take it from a good game to a great game. So there's a lot of intangibles on top of just it's a good game.
Well,
I get to say that a lot now.
It has to fit the company profile. What are your products that you're putting out? What type of games do you like? You guys aren't going to publish like a Slaughterfest vampire board game or something like that.
It's not our style.
Thing. But will it work? Will it sell? There's an audience out there.
Absolutely.
Mark that down.
Yeah.
Are you marking that down, General?
I wanted to show you my Vampire Slaughter game after we're done here.
Excellent. That sounds great. I'm sure that yes, I'm sure there's all kinds of interesting.
It's a cooperative game where you have to kill all the humans.
Yay!
Well, all right. So
in the goriest way possible.
Publishing and stuff like that. Do you have any advice for our viewers out there about if maybe they have an idea for a game and they don't know what to do? They have a product and they want to showcase it. What's some advice you can give our viewers?
The best thing I can tell you is to take advantage of the resources that are out there for designers. I pretty much just listed them off. You've got your Yahoo, your groups on Facebook in particular, the Card Game Design Group, Tabletop Publishers Group. There's a whole variety of those out there you can do a search on.
The Board Games of Greater Akron have a design and prototype group that meets regularly, and I know a couple of them have self-published some stuff, and they're happy with it.
There's a lot of local groups that will do that. I know there's one down in Houston I visit every year, that 30 or 40 people that all have games in one stage or another of design. I can't encourage people enough to take advantage of some of the designer convention opportunities that are out there, and the The two big ones are Unpub, which is more of kind of a self. It's a little more of a self. So they give you basically the space at shows to come in and show it to the public, and be able to get feedback that way. The one that the one that I've pretty much been attending for 8 years or so now is one called Protospiel, of which there are a variety of them. The first one was in Michigan, but there's one in Houston, there's one all over the place. And those are basically game designer conventions where everyone in the room is a game designer with a design. And it's a chance for you to show it to a very informed, very enthusiastic audience and get very direct feedback. At those shows, if you bring in something that's kind of like an early beta sort of design, it's likely you may go through a couple of design cycles just in the 3 days that show goes on.
It won't be the same game coming out.
It will not be the same game. GameCrafter, who does a lot of online printing, print on demand kind of stuff, they come in and they basically have a table that's going to be filled with blank cards and spinners and dice and pawns. And so all throughout the weekend, if you have an idea or something you need to add to your game or take away from you just go over to that table, grab 30 blank cards and redo all your cards and put it out there and have another design cycle right there on the spot. So
it's dynamic.
Protospiels are just one of the most interesting experiences as a designer to go through, to be able to get that really direct feedback on your design and see, get that feedback from a lot of other people who are very interested in having a quality game come out the other end of that.
And it is so important.
Yeah.
All right. Now,
Whoops, Damien, cut the cord on us here.
all right. Are we back? All
right.
All right. So I'll ask the question again, or make the comment again. It's very important to listen to the feedback that you get from these people, especially if they're game designers as well as if you get a bunch of players and they say, "Well, half the time I wasn't doing anything." Or I didn't like sitting around waiting for all you guys to take your turn while I was doing nothing, and I couldn't even plan my turn because something was going to happen and it would mess up whatever I wanted to do. And you got to listen to those people.
There's a lot of layers to that, and the core layer is absolutely as you've described it. When you're in a room with people that are interested and motivated, giving you an hour of their time to play your game, have that experience, and give you feedback, you should very much take advantage of it, write it down, note it, understand what they're saying and why they're saying it. Because this brings you to the kind of the exception to the rules, which is not all feedback you get is going to be valuable or is going to be useful.
Well, right.
And you have to go through that process. Yeah,
it's not a personal thing, really.
Yeah, you get people that are going to be like, oh my God, I have these 20 notes and I have to make 20 changes to the game because of that. Only 3 or 4 of those might be necessary. And even depending on how you approach game design. So, for example, if you an example would be, for example, James Ernest. When he's in that process of kind of showing somebody design or asking feedback, he never wants to hear your fix. He wants to hear what the problem is that is causing you to believe that a fix is necessary.
Right.
All right. Because for him, he is a talented enough designer that he can say, okay, so I understand the core problem is not that we should add 10 cards. The core problem is that there is this element of the game that's not working, and within the game design, within his. You're trying to keep it within theme and keep it within kind of the philosophy of how he's approaching that game. He's gonna be able to put a fix in place that will address the concern, not necessarily take the fix that's being proposed by someone else.
And that's absolutely part of his process.
Yes,
and it may be part of your process. A good idea could come from anywhere. However, bad ideas come from all over. So, really.
Yeah, so as well during this process, you're always trying to make sure that the people that you're getting feedback from feel like they are part of the process, but you are going to need to go back after the fact and really filter that information and understand what is going to be actionable, usable information and what isn't.
Gotcha.
Also, one of the things you should note is that you don't have to be a gamer to design games, but you should be aware of what's out there. If the last game you played with Uno and you've got 2 cards that could really make that game pop, no, we don't need another Uno. We got enough. We got enough. Another Monopoly? That's a... Oh, no. We've got enough.
Yeah, it's definitely... You have this there is a vocabulary of game design, and that's basically that understanding of what tools you have to work with, what things are out on the market that use those tools, trying to understand in a sense how a game is put together, and all of these are things that are not uncommon to any industry you want to point at. You have those elements that you put together to create what it is you want to create, and everyone can have a game idea. But ultimately, if you've never whittled before and someone gives you a block of wood and a knife, it's unlikely there's going to be much usable coming out of that.
Or like they give you a stump.
Or a lot of kindling.
They give you a stump and they give you a pocket knife that says make something out of this.
Yeah, that's right. And that's a good point. You should know the vocabulary. If we say this is a good worker placement game and you say what's worker placement, yeah, you really should know that.
Yeah, and certainly that's what these, all of these groups and what will give you those ideas of, hey, I'm working on this kind of game. Here are the touchstones in the industry of that. If you're doing an area control game, you probably ought to at least be aware of El Grande as it's kind of that starting point of this is what so many of these games are kind of building off of. And it's not, there's kind of that Kevin Smith school of filmmaking, which is I don't have to go back and see all those classic movies. I've had all those movies filtered through for me by Spielberg and Scorsese, so that I've got that vocabulary in a much more modern, concise format and can build off of that. So I'm not saying everyone has to go back and play,
Go.
Yeah, to play Go and chess and all of that. Although certainly there's value in those things, and at the end of the day, the more of those that you encounter, the more familiar and the more confident you'll be in being able to make changes and create things that are going to be intriguing and exciting for people.
Yeah. Gotcha. Well, once again, I want to thank you for being on our show.
My pleasure.
Guest of honor here for AnCon 2015. But from all of us here at Dice Squad, this is Marshall Dice, known as Adam Campbell.
General Dice, Todd Evangelista.
Super Dice, Dave Radzik.
With our guest of honor,
Alex Yeager.
And we'll see you later.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Alex. We appreciate it.
Thanks.